touch with her. Returning to the club room later, Kataru finds a questionnaire which he fills out. He later gets a text from the witch telling him to go to school at midnight, but he encounters the girl with the red ribbons and runs away from her, inadvertently stepping into a different dimension. There, he meets two small plant-like creatures named Pani and Gil. They attempt to lead him to a way out, but awaken a gigantic monster in the process, which attacks them. However, the girl with the red ribbons appears and fights the monster, resulting in the dimension breaking down and Kataru falling through a large chasm which sends him back to the school. When Kataru finally makes it to the Occult Research Society club room, the witch is there to greet him. The witch introduces herself as Akane Senri, a third-year student. After telling her about the girl with the red ribbons, Akane gives Kataru 3 shikigami to protect him from her, and Akane has him join the Occult Research Society in exchange. However, Akane is skeptical about his paranormal experiences, but if Kataru is able to prove that paranormal phenomena exist, she agrees to his request to touch her breasts. To help him in his efforts, Kataru gets Kotori to join the Occult Research Society. Also in the club is Chihei Otori, a girl who recently transferred into Kataru's class. Kataru gets a younger student he knows named Saizuru Nakatsu on the disciplinary committee to help out with the Occult Research Society's club activities. As a result, Saizuru's friend and class representative of Kataru's class, Lucia Kanohana, joins in their activities so as to keep watch over Saizuru and protect her from Kataru, whom she dislikes. Kataru meets Chihei's butler, Sakuya Otori, who immediately dislikes him. The Occult Research Society searches for a Tsuchinoko reportedly spotted on campus, but it turns out to be a hoax. During lunch, Saizuru shows Kataru that she wears an eye patch to cover her golden-colored right eye. While walking home that night, Kataru sees the girl with the red ribbons being chased by a large dog. He uses his rewrite ability to make himself faster, but loses sight of them only to meet a menacing man who summons another large dog to chase after Kataru. He glimpses a man killing the dog before passing out and later wakes up at a ramen stand thanks to 2 men who found him in the park. There, he meets Saizuru, who is a regular at the stand. Kataru tells her what happened and even shows her a scar on his hand from the incident, but after taking his hand in hers, Saizuru points out that he does not have a scar. Kataru tracks down Saujin Isaka, one of the men he met at the ramen stand who owns an antique shop. Isaka gives Kataru some blurry photos of an unidentifiable animal, but Akane is not impressed by them. Kataru buys Saizuru a CD, but since she does not own a CD player, he gives her his old MP3 player. The next day, the girl with the red ribbons shows up during school, but only Kataru can see her. Saizuru takes Kataru to see where her parents live, but they do not recognize her. Several years earlier, a fire destroyed Saizuru's home, but her parents survived. Saizuru displayed a remarkable healing ability, and her parents accepted a monetary offer to hand her over to a certain institution. However, when Saizuru returned a few days later, she found her parents fighting and accidentally erased several years' worth of her parents' memories. The next day at school, Chihei and Lucia get in a fight over Chihei criticizing Lucia for being too much of a clean freak. The Occult Research Society receives a tip about a supposedly cursed girl named Haruka Asahi, and Kataru decides to investigate the urban legend. Shortly thereafter, odd things begin happening around Kataru, such as glass that mysteriously shatters. Kataru soon discovers that similar things have happened to others connected to Haruka and those who have investigated the urban legend before. Undeterred, Kataru goes to the orphanage where Haruka once lived, but Lucia is there waiting for him. Kataru realizes that Lucia is actually Haruka, and Lucia explains that she has the power to poison anything by touch and to break glass at a distance. Although Lucia had unknowingly poisoned Kataru earlier, he uses his rewrite ability to immunize himself. Kataru later learns from Lucia and a teacher, Tauka Nishikuju, that they and Saizuru are members of an organization called Guardian, whose aim is to protect the world. To do so, they are in pursuit of someone known as the Key who could determine the fate of the world's survival. There is also an opposing organization called Gaia that are likewise looking for the Key. In exchange for keeping this a secret, Kataru asks Lucia to make him lunch while wearing a maid's uniform. Lucia wears a maid's uniform as Kataru requested, much to her embarrassment. Lucia and Chihei apologize to each other, prompting Kataru to suggest the club investigate some of Kazamatsuri's mysteries, but none of them end up as supernatural phenomena. Their next investigation involves uncovering a rainbow utopia in the woods, and Katori brings along her extremely strong dog Chibai Moth for protection. Deep in the woods, they discover a polluted portion of the river covered in rainbow sludge, killing off and causing birth defects in animals. Shocked by their discovery, the members prepare to leave. On the way back, Kadeoru sees the girl with the red ribbons and chases her to a clearing, but he is suddenly struck by several violent visions involving himself and the girl. The other club members find him on his hands and knees, but the girl is now gone. That night, Akane and Kataru talk about the adverse effect humans have on the environment, and Akane suggests the easiest way to solve the problem would be to exterminate humanity. The next morning on Sunday, and now from the newspaper club calls Kataru and tells him she is going into the woods to investigate the rainbow swamp. But a few days later, a girl at school tells him that Inao has been missing since Sunday. The Occult Research Society is forced to suspend activities following Inao's disappearance, and in an effort to save the club, Kataru proposes that they try to find her. While in the forest, Kataru gets separated from the girls, but when he goes to find them, he gets chased by 3 large dog-like creatures which eventually attack him, pinning him down. While trying to fend them off, 3 claw-like blades emerge from his wrist, killing one of the creatures while the other 2 flee. Kataru heads towards Lucia's voice and finds her and Saizuru fighting a pack of dinosaur-like creatures, which are controlled by Gaia according to Saizuru. Upon their insistence, Kataru goes to find the others, but once they meet up, a gigantic flying creature appears and pierces Kataru's arm with a tendril. Kataru tells the girls to leave, and after they are gone, the girl with the red ribbons appears and kills the creature. Katori returns, telling the girl to go away, and takes Kataru back to the others. It turns out that Akane and Chihei are members of Gaia, but Sakuya quickly appears and takes them away with him. The next day, Kataru cannot get in touch with any of the girls. 3 days have passed and Kataru still cannot get in touch with the other Occult Research Society members. Inao was found and hospitalized several days earlier, but she is now suffering from amnesia. The shock of the incident lead her and her family to move away from Kazamatsuri. Saizuru shows up at school to say goodbye to Kataru before disappearing. The girl with the red ribbons comes to Kataru's house and introduces herself as Kagari. However, she has amnesia and enlists his help to find herself. Kagari shows up at school the next day, but she draws unwanted attention. Kataru later runs into Inao, who gives him a memory card. On it, he finds pictures of various creatures and hooded figures. Kataru receives a text from Katori, but she does not tell him that she is now living in the forest with some tree-like creatures. Meanwhile, Gaia continues their search of the key while Akane is being groomed to succeed Sakura Kashima as the group saint. Members of Guardian, including Saizuru and Lucia, continue to defeat monsters in the forest and city. Kagori gets Kataru to show her around the city to help in finding herself, but they are followed around by Arata Imamiya from Guardian, Katori's dog Chibai Moth, and Pani and Gil per Sakuya's request. When Kagari points out that they are being followed, Kataru loses them by going through some alleyways. Kataru runs into Lucia by chance, but she tells him to just forget about her and lead an ordinary life. Kataru later runs into the summoner he met before, but Chibai Moth helps him escape with Kagari. They return to Kataru's home to find it ransacked, but it turns out it was just Pani and Gil making a mess. Katori calls Kataru and tells him to take Kagari and follow Chibai Moth into the woods. Katori takes them into a sealed-off area of the woods filled with various creatures she created. Katori explains that she is a druid and that she got her powers from a piece of mistletoe containing the memories of a long-dead druid. One of Katori's duties is to protect Kagari, the key that Guardian and Gaia are both looking for. Meanwhile, both Guardian and Gaia are preparing for a confrontation during the Harvest Festa. Pani and Gil tell Sakuya where to find Katori's secret base. Ordered by Akane to keep an eye on Kataru, Sakuya breaks through the barrier into Katori's secret base and begins training Kataru per his request. Sakuya is knowledgeable of Kataru's power, which will cause him to cease to be human if used too excessively. When they run out of supplies, Kataru and Kagari go out to buy more while the Harvest Festa is in full swing. Afterwards, Sakuya takes them to see Akane, who says she will do what she can to help them while still in Gaia. Guardian discovers that Kotori has been seen in the forest lately, but when Saizuru attempts to leave to help Kotori and Kataru, Lucia offers to go instead. Lucia runs into 3 Gaia members and manages to knock out 2 of them. However, while in the middle of her fight with the third, a guy named Midu summons a lava-type monster named Fogo. She gets blown away by an explosion and gets struck by a spear before falling into a deep chasm. Meanwhile, Akane tells Chihaya to go to be with Sakuya and leave Gaia permanently. Akane also gives Chihaya a letter to give to Kataru. While looking for Kotori's secret base, Chihaya comes across Lucia wounded and unconscious. Kataru and Kotori find them and take them back to the secret base where Kotori heals Lucia with Kagari's help. Lucia stays at the base while she recovers and tells the others that she cannot bring herself to harm Kagari after she saved her life. Akane's behavior begins to be influenced by Sakura, who has collapsed and is near death. Akane gives Midu Gaia's ultimate monster, the Earth Dragon, as long as he will protect the key with it. On the last day of the Harvest Festa, Midu and 2 other Gaia members head to the forest and engage in several skirmishes with Guardian scouting parties. Guardian surmises that the key must be involved and decide to send in combat troops into the forest towards Kotori's secret base. At Gaia's headquarters, a choir group begins to sing the Song of Destruction. Midu breaks into Kotori's secret base and goes on a rampage, destroying the whole base with the Earth Dragon and Fogo. Kotori uses her parents, who had died in a car crash and who she remade as familiars, to distract Midu and allow everyone to escape into the forest. Midu catches up to Kataru, who protects Kagari long enough for Asaka and several other Guardian members to arrive. However, when they attempt to kill Kagari, Midu protects them, allowing Kataru and Kagari to escape before Midu's life force is ultimately consumed by the familiars he wields. Saizuru regroups with Kataru and the others, and they take refuge in an alternate space connected to Kazamatsuri called the City of Stone created by Gaia. Meanwhile, Sakura presides over the choir singing the Song of Destruction, hoping to bring an end to humanity. Kataru and the others are summoned back to Kazamatsuri along with a gigantic tree. Various monsters begin attacking people as the forest spreads rapidly into the city. The Song of Destruction causes worldwide devastation with natural disasters. In a fight with Asaka to protect Kagari, Kataru uses his rewrite ability, but Saizuru intercedes on a motorcycle, throwing her and Asaka off a building where they continue fighting. As a result of rewriting himself too much, Kataru begins to cease being human. Kotori tells Kataru that she found him injured in the forest when Kagari first appeared years ago, and Kagari had implanted one of her ribbons into Kataru to save his life. The ribbon put too much of a burden on Kataru, so in an effort to save his life, Kagari removes the ribbon and Pani and Gil sacrifice themselves for his sake. Akane becomes the new saint following Sakura's death as she ushers in the end of the world. The Song of Destruction begins again, which causes Kataru to begin transforming into a tree-like creature as a large tree grows around Kagari. Kagari suggests that he kill her to save the world, but Kataru cannot bring himself to do it. Kagari's salvation causes all humans to begin to disappear in glowing lights. The tree eventually envelopes both Kataru and Kagari.